G'day, amateurs. The Lions have played and won 2 games on Aussie soil, but as we all know, it's really all about the Test series. And this is Wallaby Watch, where we keep tabs on those likely to oppose the Lions in that series. And as always, I've got my main man down under, Barto, to help me with it. Barto, how you doing?
Yeah, very well, Tim. Thank you very much. Yourself?
Very well. You were lucky enough to be in the Suncorp Stadium yesterday. Tell me a little bit about the atmosphere. Was it fizzing? How was it there?
Yeah, actually, it was really good atmosphere. It was still early stages of a tour, which is the real diehards, I suppose, from the UK, because it's a long time to be away for that. There's also a hell of an expat sort of presence here, but really good building. You know, the atmosphere in the bars beforehand and afterwards was really good. A lot of interaction between Reds fans and the Sea of Red, I suppose, the Lions fans. So, yeah, really good fun, really good day, and what turned out to be a pretty good game to watch as well, actually.
Yeah, it did. You know what? And I thought it grew because I commented on some of my post-match videos. I thought the atmosphere seemed very flat just after kickoff, but that could have just been because of some of the tactics that we used early doors. Did that come across in the stadium as well?
Yeah, and it seemed quite as though both teams were quite nervous, in all honesty. And you've got to remember, for a lot of those Reds guys, yes, there was 9 internationals, but there's also guys who are just relatively playing club rugby, and this was a big step up. So for them, it's huge. You know, it's a nervous start for them, but they started superbly, and that's when the atmosphere grew. You know, when they scored that first try, then suddenly you were like, okay, we're in a game, and everyone was aware.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great that there was competitive for at least, I think it was a good 25, nearly half an hour, wasn't it? Where it was, in the balance for sure. Now then, you mentioned it briefly there. I want to hear a bit more about the post-match as well. Were there plenty of beers had in the hostelries of Brisbane?
Yeah, no, it was good. I managed to catch up with an old teammate of ours before the game, John Long. So I caught up with him. I literally haven't seen him since we stopped playing together back in '95. We had a good catch up with him and his boys and a few beers and that. And then afterwards, the pubs along Caxton Street, if anyone's aware of where Suncorp Stadium is, Caxton Street leads up to it. It's just full of bars, and it was absolutely chocker.
Fantastic. That's good to hear. That is what Lions tours are all about. So that is brilliant. Okay, but let's get on to these Wallabies. This is why we're here. And the first big story really is, well, let me preface this by saying that there were 6 Wallabies, current Wallabies, not selected in the Queensland Red squad for yesterday's game. But coming up against New South Wales, a big man is going to be released, and that is Taniela Tupou. What is being made of that over there, Barto?
Yeah, I think I said last time that was probably likely because he still needs some rugby under his belt. At this stage, I'd almost be surprised if he was. I don't believe he'll start against the Lions unless he pulls something out of the bag this weekend extra special. He may be included in the squad, but I wouldn't be too surprised if he wasn't even included in the squad. He's just not looked at the races this year. So he needs to get this game time under the belt. He needs to have a good game to give him any chance of playing against the Lions in the Test matches.
Yeah, and I think everybody wants him to, don't they? Lions supporters, Waratahs, Wallaby supporters. He's one of the game's big superstars, really, and for good reason. He's a massive man who can do incredible things. So I, for one, would love him to play well and force his way back into that Wallaby squad.
Yeah, on his day, he's an excellent ball running, ball handling prop. But if he's not fit, does he? Whoa, sorry, mate. Does he become a bit of a liability for the Wallabies?
Yeah, potentially. And while we're also talking about big, massive Wallaby forwards, there is some slight concerns about potential injuries to Rob Valetini and, more important, well, no, equally importantly, I would say, Will Skelton. Is there any latest news on that?
It's been kept pretty quiet, actually. I've heard similar, but has been kept pretty quiet at the moment. I see Rob Leota's playing for the Waratahs at the weekend. He is sort of, I suppose, your natural replacement for Valentine. He plays quite similar. So him getting some game time is probably very relevant. The back row is their big deciding factor here because they've got a number of back row players, and it's really who they're going to choose, what sort of trio they want to combine and go from there. But Valentini, if he if he misses out, would be huge. He is their number one ball carrier, and he makes some real inroads. And if he's missing, they will struggle to replace him.
Yeah, absolutely. He has been the Wallabies' best player, right, for the last couple of seasons, I think. But obviously, us here in the Northern Hemisphere, we are fully aware of what Will Skelton can bring to his side. So he would obviously be a huge miss as well. But like you say, they're keeping it very quiet at the moment. So who really knows? Okay, let's move on to another section here, which is the Australian pundits. What are they saying on the telly, Barto? Which lines do they like? Do they like any of the lines? Because sometimes it can be a bit prickly over there.
Yeah, so they're loving the tour. They're absolutely loving it. So Stan Sport is the show. They're the TV broadcasters here, and they have a show on Monday to Friday every single night of the week to do with the Lions, to do with this tour. They've got Morgan Turanui as their sort of number one pundit alongside Matt Burt, Tim Horan, Justin Harrison, Michael Hooper. And they are all waxing lyrical about the way the Lions are playing. They're really impressed with the way that they're throwing the ball around, moving it out the back 2-3 times, going wide. So they're really enjoying it. They love Henry Pollock. Absolutely raved about his game. They talked about him before he came. He said, will he live up to the hype? After the Argentina game, there was a little bit of he missed this tackle, sort of, but after the game at the weekend, they were like, okay, we can see why there's the hype. For a 20-year-old to be doing what he's doing, we can see it. They've all said they'd love to see him in the test squad because he offers something different. Whether he makes it or not, who knows? Last night's game, they absolutely raved about Maro Itoje, and I think rightly so. To me, he was man of the match. Jack Morgan was superb as well, but he was just his best last night. He just got involved in everything, and really, that's what he is. He's a pest, and he just does stuff that other players can't do, and he's just fantastic at it.
Completely. And actually, the higher the level of the game, he seems to be more able to be that pesty best that he is. So I was delighted to see it in a game like that where, the stakes were relatively lower, but he just put his foot down and said, I am the captain of this team. I am driving us forward. And I agree. He would have been my man of the match as well in that game as well. Just on the style of play, I am delighted with what the Lions are doing because first and foremost, I'm a rugby fan and I want to be entertained. And I'd prefer to see the Lions lose in a really competitive series, but playing this style of rugby than win in what we saw last time in South Africa, which was completely non-remarkable. There was very little to remember from that series. So talk to me about some more of those pundits, Barto. I'm aware of Morgan Turanui and how he speaks, and I think he's outstanding. But what about some of the newer ones? What about Michael Hooper, fairly fresh out of the Test arena?
Yeah, he's actually really good because he's very objective. So sometimes the Australian pundits may not be overly objective, but he actually is. And he offers obviously a very recent insight to playing international rugby. Morgan Turanui played 15, 20 years ago. The game's changed so much, as everyone's aware. But Michael Hooper only played a couple of years ago, and he's able to offer that real recent international level insight, and he offers a lot. And he's, again, objective. He's not in the slightest bit sort of biased. He's really good. So it's been really good listening to him, actually, really good.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's the TV media. What about the papers? What about the printed media? Because again, similar to the UK, quite often the writers can be a little bit more punchy in terms of provoking reactions or just getting people to read, shall we say?
Yeah, the big thing was at the beginning when they landed in Perth, and you had the Lions CEO say that he wasn't happy that Wallabies weren't being released. They jumped on that, and they were like, "Well, hold on a minute. We've got to do what's right for the Wallabies." And in all honesty, I think they've done very well. They've released a lot of players. Actually, I think they've been pretty fair on trying to keep supporters happy, keep the province is happy, but also get their players game time when they need to, and that. So they jumped on that. Most interesting thing, where we are in Queensland, in Brisbane, the local sort of tabloid paper is the Courier Mail. It's a rugby league paper. You will not find rugby union in the Courier Mail. Today, front page, there's the Reds tamed by the Lions, front page headline. So that's how far reaching the Lions tour is. And it's absolutely huge for rugby union in Australia. And that's what they need to really play on. I say it's the first time I've been here 10 years. I've never seen rugby union on the back page, let alone on the front page. Usually you've got to go 4 or 5 pages in the back to find it. So that's a real, highlight, and it shows just how much this tour is meaning for rugby union in Australia.
Brilliant. Okay, well, that's good to hear because, I'm just a fan of the game. I want it to grow as much as it can wherever. So that is a big plus point. What about the fans, Barto? What about the Australian fans? What are you hearing on the street? What are people saying to you about these Lions?
Yeah, pretty good. Last night we were sat with the Wallabies supporters. I always buy my tickets in with them just to sort of get some equal banter going. But it was great. They're really good. Most of the Wallabies fans who go and watch rugby are pretty knowledgeable, and so it was good. We had some good banter. There's a lot of respect, a lot of families. That's one good thing here. You see a lot of families go to the rugby, which is really good to see. We had a couple of young boys sat behind us, and we had a great time with them. The supporters there, I think they're a bit nervous, to be honest, because I think the series will go to the Lions. Personally, I think it'll probably be a 2-1 series, but they're a little bit nervous after seeing these first couple of games and seeing how well, some of the stuff's beginning to happen. And again, I suppose rightly so, because the Wallabies haven't played since, the Northern Hemisphere winter in November. And they've got one game against Fiji on Sunday. And then they've got to hit the road, playing in a huge series against world-class team.
Yeah, I agree. It's not ideal preparation, is it? You'd want to have a little bit of a run into this. So, I can totally understand that. And, in that respect, potentially the Lions have actually got better preparation than the Wallabies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, again, so the press were a little bit because the Wallabies did ask for an Australia A game, similar to what South Africa did last tour, and the Lions said no. So they're, and I sort of see why the Lions want to say no, because it could pretty much end up being a 4-test series as such, and it gives Australia a really good chance to get a lot of their players some game time. But personally, I think just maybe that they need to actually have the best against them. So you'd almost want them to have a better preparation. So it's a really good contest.
That's interesting. So there's kind of games being played on both sides in terms of availability and trying to stunt each other's preparation, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose it's strategic, it's tactical, It probably all comes down to money as well at the end of the day, Tim. I'm sure there's huge money involved, win or lose, but there's probably more involved if you win rather than lose. So that's, always going to be the way with a professional game.
Absolutely. Okay, mate, so we bring this to a close. Is there anything else that's happening? Anything else you want to sort of alert us to that's happening down under?
No, I suppose the two games that I'm really looking forward to now are the AUNZ Invitational team and the Pacifica Indigenous Invitational team. So AUNZ team have announced 3 All Blacks. So Shannon Frizzell, David Havili, and I've forgotten who the third one was, but 3 good, Nani Laumapi. So 3 strong All Black players. And then for the Indigenous Pacific team, they've announced Curtly Beale, who will captain it as long as he's back fit, which they're hoping. They've got a few of the Pacific boys in there. Again, a team that's going to look really quite strong. Might become a bit barbarian style because, again, preparation for them is not going to be huge. So they might have a bit of a barbarian feel about it. But you're playing against international world-class players, which will be good for the Lions to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just thinking back to 2017, I think it was that tour when Laumapi had a brilliant game against the Lions. Was it for the Highlanders? I think I may be right there. And it kind of put him on the map, I think, actually, during that tour. So it's brilliant that he gets to come full circle almost and play this game towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, Laumapi against Bundyaki or Sione Tuapolotu, that's going to be some impact in the middle. That will be fantastic to watch. So, yeah, be really good games, those. I think they're going to be a highlight, and I'm fortunate enough to be going along to both of those ones as well. So, looking forward to those.
Good man, you lucky man. Good, that's brilliant. I love to hear it. Okay, people, that's what we think. That's lots of stuff going on over there in Australia for lots of different reasons. Any opinions you have? What about this game playing between the Lions and the Wallabies management to try and get the best preparation? Let me know what you think about that down in the comments below. Do you want Taniela Tupou to get fit and get into that Wallabies squad for the Test series? Again, in the comments down below. Give this video a thumbs up while you're down there if you don't mind. It helps other people find it. And it just leaves me to say, Barto, thanks so much again for your time today. It's really appreciated.
No worries, mate, and we'll catch up soon.
Absolutely. And people at home, you can watch, subscribe there. You'll watch that one next. Don't forget to get out and play.